Enchanté, mon chers. Hello. How is everyone? Are you feeling frisky? It's Thirsty Thursday. Yay. Before we get started, I feel like you need to see this outfit in the context of the whole thing, because right now, I look like I'm from the Renaissance, and the smocking sort of looks like the window through which you talk to a priest. But if you see, it's like this cute little dress, and I'm like, it looks like almost like Eastern European folk garb or something. Like I feel like a little nesting doll. But like just sitting here like this, it's like, what the hell does she have on? Yes, much cuter when standing, but oh well, I didn't want to change. Let's get into our reading. We are here for our weekly romance oracle reading using the Romance Angels Oracle by Doreen Virtue. This is a highly coveted out-of-print deck. There may be some bootlegs out there, but this is the OG. Let's see what we need to know for this week ahead. How's your love lives been going? Any turbulence? Any misunderstandings? Probably. Anything misinterpreted completely out there? Let's see what we need to know for the week. Lots of planets have been going forward. I feel that in general, in the zeitgeist, the feminines and the masculines are shifting. Which means there's when things stir, it stirs up emotion, and it stirs up people's egos, and it stirs up feelings of defensiveness and, feelings of like boundary and wanting control. And so the challenge for us all, as if you are here, it's like we're all here hoping to have a higher level of experience in our lives. And we're probably here in this reading for romance, hoping to have a higher experience within our relationships. And so in order to do that, we have to be able to transcend these like temptations that trigger our egos, that trigger our insecurities, that trigger our defensiveness, that trigger our feelings of wanting to, put on bravado or hide and put on masks, whatever it is that we do that keeps propping up the shadow side, the ego side of attraction. And instead, it's like we're trying to figure out how to get rid of those negative shells of like the ego reactiveness and defensiveness and offensiveness and tactics, but like keep the positive aspects of being healthy challenges to one another and to be mirrors in a healthy way, in a healing way, in a productive way. And yeah, it's just a difficult terrain to navigate, because when you're being a spiritual person, it's like sometimes the spiritual requirements seem to be in opposition to social romantic requirements. And so it's kind of a weird place to find the balance between being on your spiritual path and then also being able to navigate attraction, dating, rules of engagement, what is positive game playing that is flirtatious and entices desire, and not game playing, but like playfulness, flirtation, repartee, back and forths, things that you engage in that build chemistry and attraction, but not tactical, control, manipulative tactics It's like there's a fine line between what authentically stokes desire and what's healthy and sustainable and natural, for dynamics, for, healthy relationships. And then what's on the line of manipulation, control, dishonest, not real, not authentic, right? So it's trying to find that in between, and it's not easy, but I think that going forward into this new cycle of our life, we're learning how to have a new love life, one that we haven't had before. And so we do kind of feel, in a sense, like we're starting over because we're trying to approach it differently than we have in the past. And so we're getting different results, and it's like trial and error all over again, kind of. Let's see what this says. A new person has stirred your romantic feelings. So maybe there's literally a new person that has stirred your romantic feelings, or maybe there's a new person coming in. And let's see what else comes out, because I feel like the big theme here is that we're trying to do things differently this time, because we're trying to see our patterns as they come up, our insecurities, our fears, our defensiveness, right? How many times, this has happened to me multiple times in my life, in romantic relationships and at work. I will use the example of my former boss. I worked on a show where our executive producer, who is a powerful, rich millionaire, was coming through the office, and I'm like me all the time, and I was in literally the lowest position. I was working as an office PA. But I'm just I don't ever think about status or anything. I'm just the same me all the time. And so I'm telling this producer man as he comes in, I noticed that he got a haircut. He looked nice that day. I was like, hey, you look sharp. Did you get your haircut? You look slick. I was just being nice. And he was like, what are you talking about? Are you messing with me? Are you fucking with me? And he literally shrunk. I could see this man melting and crumbling before me. And I was like, oh shit, what have I done? I just was innocently and sincerely being nice to this man who has produced all these shows, who's one of the top producers in my city, in Nashville. And he's I have now gotten him into some kind of meltdown of inner child syndrome, and I'm like, what is going on? And he was like, well, that's what my brother. I was like, no, why would you think I'm messing with you? I'm just trying to give you a compliment. And he was like, are you really? Are you just messing? Are you being facetious? Are you being sarcastic? I'm like, no, I think you look nice. I don't mess with people. I would never try to make them feel not good. And I certainly wouldn't go out of my way to roast them with set them up with a compliment that was really a burn. Never. I was I'm totally sincere. And he was like, oh, because my brothers used to do that to me. That's how they would bully me. And I'm like, oh my God. And I had a relationship that was 3 years long with a person. It was my college boyfriend. He was the love of my life at the time. And we broke up. And when we broke up, he was breaking up with me. He was telling me all of these things that I had said. He had completely misread the whole time. That I was being facetious and messing with him, and really the whole time I was just honestly just saying nice things to him. And I was so bewildering that I couldn't even come to terms with the fact that something that unfair had just happened. I mean, it was the right thing that played out in my life, rejected as God's protection in the end. But so yeah, so it's what are we even dealing with out there with people? So it's it can at least be on your side of the street in some kind of control. We don't know what we're dealing with other people's stuff, how they're receiving things, how they may be reading things. And so every single person is just going through life with their scared, frightened inner child inside of them reacting to most of the things that are going on at any given moment. It's one of the ego's favorite people to work with. It's our inner child. So just take that into account as you're going out there and as you're trying to interact in new ways. don't bring it into a PG level, but like, and don't put all your cards on the table right up front. But also just know, as you're dealing with people, maybe don't take things so personally or so to heart, because you don't know if they're reacting based on a misinterpretation, if they have triggers coming up. Everyone is triggered recently and right now especially. And so starting new love in this new cycle, we're kind of all triggered right now because everybody has been through an overhaul the past couple of years. And so we're all just starting to get ourselves into focus again. And so because all these transformations and big changes have been happening, it's like we're all unsettled and we have this disembodied anxiety, and we're like, oh my God, like things are unfamiliar. And so, I don't know. People might be more heightened right now than usual. Now, we're all starting a brand new cycle, and we've all come through these changes, and we're all very heightened right now and just settling into ourselves. And so because we're going into this new cycle of life, we're going to be given new opportunities with new cycles of love lessons to be able to do things differently than we have before. So it's going to help us if we can have enough inner control to observe our immediate reactions and those of others and not react right away. Let it settle, because the surface waters can be misleading. They can be choppy. They can be affected by the weather of the day. What we're trying to do is go beneath the surface, right? To the depths. So just know that as you're going into new cycles of romantic encounters and a new cycle of your love life, you're going to be tested with these things, and it's going to be so that you can practice embodying your new self and find your new self as you're showing up in new ways, right? To your dating life, to your relationships, to the relationships you already have, right? And to new ones coming in. So it's all new. What else do we need to know as we are giving it a fresh start with our love life, doing things differently, forgiving and learning? So as you release and heal the past, you experience more love in your present moment. Follows what we were just saying. It's like we're in a new moment right now, and so we need to forgive all the stories from the past that are influencing us now, right? That ex-boyfriend that was misinterpreting all the things I said, that's what his girlfriend before me was like, and I remembered him talking about her. So all that baggage was informing how he was interpreting me through our whole relationship, even though I was completely in the innocent and he was my hero. So this new chance you have at love, if it's a new person coming in, or if it's just a new cycle that's starting and there's not a new person, whatever it is, you need to get over the past and forgive those former things that happened and give new people and new experiences a fresh slate, right? Learn from your past, take that wisdom with you as you're interacting now, but don't be negatively affected by the past still, right? Don't let that baggage cause problems in a situation that doesn't have any problems yet, right? You can have a clean slate. Don't bring problems to the clean slate, right? Start fresh. Give people a fresh start. And if something is triggering you, that is your opportunity to do that work with yourself. And you might get to the bottom of it, and you might see that it wasn't them at all. And if you do that work with yourself and there's still an issue that you need to maybe straighten out. The thing is, I'm so grateful every time someone communicates to me something for real, if they can really communicate honestly, because oh my gosh, there have been times where someone misinterpreted me and they didn't catch me the right, they didn't hear what I said right, or they took what I said differently, or I didn't get to fill in another part of the story and they were like, oh, it sounded like you meant this. And I'm like, oh my God, no, I'm glad we clarified, right? So there have been so many times, or if somebody told me like, hey, you're doing something that is hurtful to me, or I need this, and this that you're doing is like, I'm always glad that someone has the courage to communicate to me, because I appreciate that. I'm like, oh, great, let's talk this out, or let's make adjustments, or, where can we meet in the middle? There's always, I don't know, I appreciate communication. Some people are like, oh, I don't want to bring it up. I don't want to cause a big thing, And honestly, if you keep it in, it is already causing a big thing, because you may have misinterpreted. And so even if you still work it out yourself, you're still going to assume in your mind, part of you, that person meant something that maybe they didn't. And so work it out within yourself so that you're not emotionally charged. And then in the spirit of healthy communication, you can go to that person and say like, hey, I don't know what's going on in the situation, but like, this is what happened, and this is how like I'm interpreting this, and I just like, I wanted to either like talk about it and clear it up, or like give you a chance to like correct me if I'm wrong. It helps, right? So forgive and learn. Release the past so that you can actually open up to what's in front of you now and see it for what it is, and appreciate it and enjoy it and let it in, and not have it be jaded already by stuff that has nothing to do with this experience at all, but it's just in the past. So let it be new, right? Let your love life be new now. Forgive and learn from the past and let it be in the past. But don't assume that it's coming with you in every new experience. These other cards came out too, and I feel like they're for us. Healing family issues. Right along with the healing and learning, or the forgiving and learning, not only are we forgiving and learning from our past relationships and our former lovers, but we're also healing family issues, which helps us resolve patterns that have played out in all of our past relationships. It's like, as we're looking back and forgiving our old partners, we're making the connections in where we all played a role. Because these relationships that didn't work out were a reflection of both parties' family life growing up, probably the missing pieces from those relationships. So, the more we can do the healing of the mother wounds and the father wounds, right? The more that we make the connections of where like those wounds sort of implanted limiting beliefs or defense mechanisms within us that have been playing out and repeating themselves within our romantic relationships too. And the more that we become aware of them, the more we can break the cycle, right? We can behave differently. We can see it differently, right? It's like on an energetic level, like the lesson is dissipating, so it's not in your realm and your sphere anymore attracting things, but like on an emotional level, on a mental level, on like a heart and soul level, it's like you're not being triggered anymore, and not in the same way. And so the triggers and the pain aren't there. And so then also it's like you're also not repeating the same patterns because you're not responding in the same way, or you're not letting the people around you that are treating you the same way anymore if they're refusing to grow and change as well. So healing those relationships that we had with our parents, so that we don't continue to play out those dynamics with our romantic partners, right? It's like we're not looking for the things that our mother and father didn't give us. We're not looking for our partner to do that. Like, we're learning how to resource those things for ourselves, and from our source, and letting that be the source, the main source that we draw from. That way we can have a partnership where we stand side by side with someone and we're overflowing into one another instead of like needing each other to like fill a void, It's like, instead of having like, what is that? The umbilical cord attached to the person because you need to stay alive, right? It's like more that you are individual cups and that your cup runneth over. So, yeah, so focus right now on forgiving the past and working on healing those old family wounds. They're probably presenting to you right now. Remember, January has been all about last call for purge, last call, final healing. We're launching you into a new life. Do you want to keep bringing in the same chaos? So do that work now, even though sometimes it's exhausting and unpleasant and uncomfortable. It's going to be the work that's going to launch you into like happiness and fulfillment, and a lot of positive things can open up after that, right? It's going to offload a lot of the things that are blocking out right now or keeping you in a stalemate or like in a plateau. Okay, our last two cards are, it's chemistry. There's a strong magnetic attraction here, and it is safe for you to love. Open your heart to give and receive the highest energy of all. And so all of these things, like without the influence of another person in or out, just on our own, doing this healing work and this forgiving work to like renew our love life is going to give us so much more magnetism when it comes to sexual magnetism, to love magnetism, to relationship magnetism. It's going to increase our chemistry because it's offloading a lot of toxic clutter that was in our energy field. It's offloading a lot of emotional clouds that were shrouded around us, keeping us like in like an Eeyore, like that bad vibe that's like Debbie Downer energy, like all that's leaving too, right? So energetically, just doing all of this offloading is giving you such a greater energy, right? When you're interacting with people, when people have a lot of baggage and they're like defensive and they're like, I don't know, how you've seen these people interacting with like the opposite sex and you're like, wow, are they trying to attract the person? They're awfully defensive. It's like you're not going to be attractive, but if you're not going around with a chip on your shoulder, it's like you're so much more attractive. So, and then it's easier to go around with your chip not on your shoulder if you feel like your guard is down and you've healed these past wounds that are keeping you guarded, feeling like it's not safe for you to love. So you're not like having your chemistry's not jamming, right? You're coming off too guarded. So let your guard down, right? If your defense mechanisms are up and you're pushing people out and you're too guarded, then like you're not feeling like it's safe for you to love, so you're not opening yourself up for anything to come in, right? So yes, that's for you as an individual. There might actually be a new cycle of love getting ready to ramp up for you. In Totally Tuesdays, our manifestation reading, a soulmate card came up. And so it's like we are primed for a soulmate to maybe enter our life this year. And so the important thing now is to prepare ourselves so that we have the best shot at a new stab at love. And when we feel that chemistry, and maybe someone has already stirred that recently, right? And maybe it's in sort of a holding pattern or a funk, or maybe it's gotten off to a rocky start. There's emotional issues under the surface that are going on that have nothing to do with the parties involved. It's mostly this stuff. It's family baggage. It's past relationships that are informing the perceptions right now. And it's causing dissonance and like a little bit of chaos. So I'd say focus on healing those issues and come to terms with all of that in yourself. And then when your energy starts to shift and you're finding yourself letting go of these like old ghosts that have haunted you, then probably you'll feel safer to love. It'll feel safer for you because you'll be more clear about your feelings, or if you're safe to feel, or if it's just all, an illusion, or if your feelings are valid or what. But you'll start feeling like, oh, okay, I've done this healing. I'm not feeling so guarded and defensive anymore, I know that I can, from my own healing and wisdom and discernment, start making, authentic choices from the heart, and your chemistry, like your mojo will go up, and you'll feel safer to love. Your guard will go down, and that way, like, you can't really give and receive. You can't be open if you're like in a fortress, right? So that's what I'm getting. It's like there's something that is like old wounds and old conditioning that's still causing like this need or this feeling like you need a fortress around you, us, we, the collective. So when we start healing this stuff, this family stuff, this past relationship stuff, and we start feeling like it's safer for us to love again, then we'll feel less defensive and we'll start having more chemistry again. But right now, it's just like there's a lot of, I don't know, there's a buzz in the air of mischief and chaos and calamity. And I feel like there's little imps like getting in the way and like causing mischief and misunderstanding. But it's doing it as a catalytic, to be provoked, it's doing it to provoke you and us and all of us to look at these things, because whatever it's provoking, it's touching the stuff that's connected to the family healing and the past relationships. So it's poking, but it's actually a highlighter in the workbook. Hey, this right here, this is what's being quizzed on right now. Essay, free write, essay question. All right, you guys, I feel good. I feel overall we have a new cycle of love coming in. There may actually be a new love coming in, and it actually might be safe for us to love this time, but our success is going to be determined by our ability to be healing these things. And just remember that this is a lifelong process, so you can't put people off or on hold forever. Eventually, you're going to have to be like, all right, I got to get my feet back in the water, but this is like an ongoing process that I have self-awareness around and that I'm participating in, right? Because relationships, the only way they ever work, the only way that people can have like a successful romantic relationship is if they constantly do the work with themselves and they constantly give effort and do the work on the relationship. And like work doesn't sound like a fun, but it's like you keep the relationship alive with yourself. You keep doing these healing work, self-care, self-love. Always keep putting effort into keeping the relationship alive and the chemistry alive. And there's different aspects to the relationship too, because you have to work on the relationship skills, but there's also a separate set of skills, and that is the chemistry skills, and that is the desire. And that is where it's between the relationship and the desire tactics and practices. Like I don't know if you guys have read Esther Perel's book, Mating in Captivity, but she is I can't remember. She's a doctor of psychology, I think, very learned woman, but her research has led her to deduce that like being a solid and stable and secure partner sometimes is in direct conflict to stoking desire in your partner. And sometimes the stoking of desire can really get in the way of like the spiritual practices as well, about being like totally upfront and authentic and honest and all that stuff. So it's like, it's a little dance. It's a little combination of all of these to maintain attraction and chemistry, but also be spiritual and be able to be honest with yourself and others and be open to like growth and and evolve and transcend. And then also there's relationship needs and requirements and things and skills to have there as well, that they're their whole own thing. You're nurturing a different part of a person with the relationship skills and with yourself. So lot of balls in the air at any given point. So we don't need to be too perfectionistic. We just need to do our best to know that this is a process and it's always going to be. And if we can slow down and just try to go slow enough to where our ego is just not in like the rapid fire reactive mode, like that'll help so much, right? And just remember that at any given time, we're dealing with other people's ego and wounded child too. So you have to consider, are they aware like this? Are they doing self-help that's helping them become aware of their ego and like their motives and motivations, and like doing exercises to help themselves pause and ask why this is playing out in their movie? Probably not. So you get the blessed role of being the one that's more aware. And maybe you are lucky enough to have found someone who's also aware. The more people that are aware, the better. Get the awareness out. But yeah, so just try to remember, go slow. Know that you're dealing with people's ego reactions at any given moment. Do your best to work around your own as well. Godspeed. Wear a helmet.